This is not a drill. Vaxee have finally brought the heat with their first wireless mouse, the XE. Bad news, you better re-up your gym sub and get lifting, brah, because it's coming in at a hot 77 grams. Let's get to work. No pain. Come on. Vaxee!
Daddy, you left your mouse.
Since Vaxee dropped their first mouse, for a large number of the community, the unified war cry has been goat shape, will buy when wireless. But rather than kick off their wireless renaissance with the quintessential shapes of the MP and AX, instead they've led with their work gaming hybrid, the XE, which was made infamous by the legendary emoji button feature. I reviewed their wired XE and thought it was about as good as a wired mouse could be in late 2022 TBH. Video link somewhere on the screen, click it for the algo, and while you're at it, subscribe for a chance to win a hand-signed nude of your favourite nerd dad. Disclaimer, not an actual competition. Now, unboxing a Vaxee mouse is probably about as exciting as having your prostate examined by Tony Robbins. They sling you it over in a little white cardboard box, and to be honest, you feel like you should probably just be grateful they bothered to include an actual mouse with how barren the whole experience is. There's no spare skates, no e-waste filling stickers, no pro gamers choose Vaxee marketing psyops propaganda leaflets either. Just an unassuming little emoji mouse, a charging cable with a kind of a mini trident termination, and a blocky little dongle adapter that looks kind of like a kid's safety pencil sharpener in my opinion. So, $120 lighter with just a mouse with an emoji button to show for it. Does it disappoint? Well, let's dig into the shape first. For those of you who haven't been doing your nerdy shape comparison homework and need the catch up, firstly, you are the reason the rest of the class are being held back for this extra 30 seconds, and you should feel bad about it. Next, the XE is Vaxee's spin on the immensely popular and mainstream FK2C shape, aka the Razor Viper. But as Vaxee like to remind us, they do not clone shapes, so there is a bit of a twist here, I guess. You get about 2 to 3 millimeters more height in the rear hump to have a more rounded and full backside to press all up into your palm. This minor tweak alone makes the mouse a much more viable pick for aggressive claw grip players who can find the FK and Viper shapes a little bit too Miss Flat Booty to get a good anchor point onto for their palms. Now, I was a little bit concerned that the old face down, ass up hump profile would make it a bit of a pain to fingertip, but the mouse is small enough that with 20 by 10 centimeter hands, I could still use my preferred grip style, that being fingertip. Dimensions will be up on the screen now for the special few among you who are diligently taking notes, no doubt, to write me a paragraph or two in the comments about all the reasons my opinion is incorrect. Well done. Which brings us right on cue to everyone's other favourite painfully boring segment, the specs inside the mouse. Now, thankfully, Vaxee have avoided catching strays from mouse review community by swapping out their 3389 sensor they had in the wired XE for a 3395 sensor, because heaven forbid anyone trying to aim with a mouse that uses a 3370 anymore. It's frankly mind-blowing to think that a sensor a majority of people have used for the past 18 months to set new Kovacs scores and present in the Zowie EC2 wireless is obviously now completely unusable. Obviously unusable. They've also opted for the same Huano 70-gram switches and the same separated clicks as we saw in the wired version. Despite them being heavier than those used in the AX and MP series, I do find them much lighter to actuate in the XE shell. I'm also not ashamed to share my continued problems with premature actuation, which does, yes, continue on the wireless version. When lifting and repositioning the mouse on swipes, if I had even the slightest amount of digit weight on the click, most of the time I would awkwardly register the click and spray the contents of my barrel all over my opponent's abdomen, rather than the headshot I was lining up in the game. Otherwise, as to be expected from Vaxee, the build and quality control is generally on point, although I did unlock a hidden feature on my unit. When pincer gripping the shell, I can actuate mouse 5. Handy if I don't need to reach up to the actual button to click it, but maybe one to watch out for in your own copies. Oh, and while we're at it, thanks Sweet Baby Zegan that the same tactile but muted scroll wheel that they used in the wired XE has migrated its way on over to the wireless emoji boy too. Oh, sorry, I've Just felt a disturbance in the force, as if dozens of clicky optical wheel shields suddenly cried out in terror and were thankfully silenced. Lastly, the skates continue to be large, thin, and frankly uninteresting, arriving pretty rough and scratchy out of the box. In terms of tech, Vaxee continue to reject modernity and embrace tradition, with their customization and features accessed either by a series of buttons on the base or a kind of Illuminati code of side button and scroll wheel combination presses. The XE also lets you pair to a second dongle and switch between them in seconds, though that will mean the purchase of additional said dongle at the cost of $18, so bear that in mind when you are placing your order to avoid double shipping. One of the reasons Vaxee are so fashionably late to the wireless party is their irrational fear of connection instability, so much so that they offer, not one, not two, not even three, but yes, 4 various wireless connectivity modes. Their latest and arguably best is the competitive mode, which sacrifices some of the functionality like motion sync and lift-off distance adjustment at the altar of transmission stability. Now, I am not going to pretend that I noticed any difference whatsoever between any of the above, but I am old, slow, and let's face it, somewhat special. The pros who trust Vaxee in competition apparently can though, and did. So I'm going to take their word for it and just let you know too, like a good little consumer, and let you make your own mind up. Now at this point we've covered the shape, spec and tech, but how does it stack up against the wired version, considering it is literally double the price in some regions? Please do pour out a little bourgeois for the EU homies left out in the cold. Once again, Razer really did say €310. Well, comparing both models at a glance, you'd probably be hard pressed to tell the two apart. In fact, outside of flipping them on their back like a little beached tortoise, the two are twinning. Same solid shell with separated buttons, same big old elephant foot skates on the base, but the only real difference is the inclusion of an on-off switch on the base. Revolutionary, I know, for a wireless mouse, but you would be surprised that a feature as basic as an on-off switch for their mice has proven too much for certain companies in the past, mentioning no names of course.
We know I can't say that. It was
G-Wolves. The biggest material difference you won't see, but you will almost certainly feel, as the new wireless Emoji Boy is a whole ass 10 grams heavier than the wired OG was, at 77 grams versus 67 grams. I wouldn't say the wireless felt worse, but it definitely makes movement feel more intentional and weightier, like sliding a tiny but very real aircraft carrier around your mousepad. Memes aside, it is kind of crazy to take a minute and think that we have reached a place in 2023 that a 77 gram wireless mouse is being considered heavy. I mean, the poor lads at Vaxee even had to launch a preemptive strike in their announcement communications with a classic YouTuber apology statement to placate the hordes of tweaking Adderall stuffed tweens who are already grabbing their pitchforks and dipping their tiki torches in gasoline. Yeah, 77 grams is almost 3 times heavier than my main, the embarrassingly small public health and safety hazard, the HSK Pro from G-Wolves. But before we write it off, let's remember this mouse was absolutely not built to compete with the HSK Pro or anything from G-Wolves and other ultra lightweight peddlers for that matter. It's built to be in the sweaty grip of a Valorant Pro competing at the highest levels of tournament whilst their e-girl plans where to spend their prize money. The obvious peer to rank our little emoji against is the other new esports wireless release from Zowie, the EC2CW. If we were instead to compare these two, I think we get a far more favourable view of the XE presented. $33.70 versus $33.95, $150 versus $120, one colourway versus a rainbow cacophony, 77 grams versus, well, you guessed it, 77 grams. For the esports crowd who are comfortable playing and competing at those weights, the 77 gram elephant in the room isn't going to be a factor, and they'll be far more concerned with performance stability and reliability of wireless transmission, which Lil Moji has in absolute buckets. Quick play superstars like myself will complain about how much heavier it is than the G Pro Potato and the like, but will then proceed to bottom frag the lobby with their 20 gram German science projects. Ultimately, the hard to swallow pill here is that it probably isn't the weight of your mouse holding you back when most pros would ruin your whole entire day with their 80 gram weapon of choice. Over the next 12 months, we can also expect a wireless refresh of the AX and MP series, and whilst I probably won't be using them as my mains, I'm sure they'll be solid mice, and I can't say that I am not hyped to see the impact that these drops will have on the pro esports circuit. I've been Gary, this has been Get Reviews, and if after watching this you're considering buying the Vaxee XE wireless, then you have an absolutely massive